In 1950s France, you could buy a delivery van the size of a sofa, drive it without a license, and still impress the neighbors. It wasn't fast, it wasn't fancy, but it had Formula One grade ignition and enough charm to make a baguette blush. This is the Solyto, the tiny titan of post-war streets. Ladies and gentlemen, if you've ever wondered what would happen if a mope ate a toolbox and burped out a delivery van, meet the Solyto, France's three-wheeled workmate that kept post-war streets humming while everyone else was still hunting for petrol coupons. It's tiny, stubborn, and somehow adorably purposeful. Before we dive in, a grateful nod to our sponsors. Your support keeps the lights on, the coffee hot, and the bolts on Timmy's project cars only slightly less loose. If you like oddball engineering and jokes older than my carburetor, thank you for being here. Now, the little Lyonnais legend. The Solyto story doesn't begin with a van. It begins with a flirtation. Before the war, the venerable motorcycle firm Newmap, founded by the Martin family in Lyon, built a miniature roadster called the Baby, buzzing along with a Fichtel & Sachs motor. During the occupation, an industrious mind in the shop, Mr. Castellano, sketched something far more utilitarian, a tiny three-wheeled truck for people who needed to move goods, not impress in-laws. Plan shelved, war endured, optimism reheated. After peace returned, Newmap revived the little roadster under the name Rolux, first with an Aubier-Dunn engine, then with Yidril, before reality nudged them toward Castellano's practical vision. In 1952, they rolled out the machine we're celebrating, the Solyto. Even its name was a wink, Société Lyonnaise de Tôlerie, the company's sheet metal division, shortened and stitched into Solyto. French industry loved an acronym almost as much as it loved a clever workaround, and this vehicle was Beclear. Post-war France needed delivery vehicles the average shopkeeper could afford, feed, and thanks to 125cc, often drive without a full car license. Scooter-based triporteurs from Vespa and Lambretta were everywhere, but they had open cabs and handlebar steering. The Solyto countered with doors, a proper round steering wheel, and a drip of car-like dignity without straying beyond 125cc. It looked like a shrunken van. It lived like a loyal mule. Production was a Lyon affair from start to finish. Newmap's motorcycle lines tapered off by the end of the 1950s, yet the Solyto kept trundling. In the early 1960s, Les Électriques KV, a Lyon company that, among other things, made phone boxes, entered the picture. The partnership deepened, and by 1971 the model wore KV branding and the TC8 designation. Through the 1960s came modernizations you wouldn't expect in a micro workhorse. A clever automatic transmission devised by Joseph Spalek, an electric starter on later units, and brace yourself, capacitive discharge ignition in 1965. Yes, CDI, the spark tech you read about in race paddocks, popping up on a 125cc French delivery trike. Only Formula One could brag the same that season, and even they weren't selling bread on Tuesday mornings. How many were made? Period literature and carefully compiled museum files put the total around 3,000 to 4,000 units, depending on how you count supplier shifts and body variations across the 22-year run. Survivors? Dozens, not hundreds, scattered through private garages, French classifieds, and a few fine institutions. The Lane Motor Museum has flown the flag for years. The Bruce Weiner Microcar Museum once fielded pristine examples. One a 1958 machine wearing gunmetal grey and robin's egg blue with canvas sling seats that looked barely satin. Another a rare 1967 brake camping variant with 4 glazed rear windows. If you spot a Solyto at a local show, you will not be the only person smiling. Technically, the Solyto is a lesson in elegant minimalism. Up front, the single wheel both steers and drives, a sort of one-man band of traction tucked just behind a louvered nose panel. The engine sits above that wheel, perched on the fork yoke like a very determined hat. Early examples used 125cc two-stroke singles from suppliers aligned with Newmap's motorcycle ties. Over time, you'll see Sotecma units and commonly Yidril motors. Output depended on the exact engine and year, but the band runs from about 4.5 horsepower, roughly 3.4 kilowatts, to about 5.5 horsepower, around 4.1 kilowatts. That's not a lot until you remember curb weight. A typical panel van Solyto comes in around 330 pounds, 150 kilograms, yet it could haul roughly 441 pounds, 200 kilograms of bread, tools, or tomatoes without demanding overtime rates. The chassis is as straightforward as a village ledger, a tiny ladder frame, two closely spaced rear wheels carrying the load, and simple sheet steel bodywork that could be repaired with patience and a friendly tinsmith. The front suspension is a coil spring surrounding the fork. The rear rides on semi-elliptic leaf springs. Dimensions are confidently compact. The length is a neat 8 feet, 2.44 meters. Width hovers around 4 feet 3 inches, 1.30 meters. Height about 4 feet 6 inches, 1.37 meters. Inside, two tube-framed chairs stretch canvas slings taut like deck loungers. You sit upright, elbows in, grinning. There's a windscreen wiper, sometimes even a heater. The fuel tank lives on the dashboard inside the cab, which sounds alarming until you remember the entire vehicle weighs less than your cousin's touring motorcycle. To start many early engines, you release the front grille and give the kickstarter a decisive nudge. It's charming, quick, and very Solyto, everything important within arm's reach. Timmy once tried to improve that process with a cordless drill and a length of hose. His eyebrows grew back in time for summer. Advertised maximum speed was about 31 miles per hour, 50 kilometers per hour. Real-world cruising, especially with a full load, sat calmly in the 19 to 25 miles per hour, 30 to 40 kilometers per hour band, which is where tiny vans, dogs, and municipal gardeners find their true calling. Fuel use hovered around 59 miles per US gallon, roughly 71 miles per imperial gallon, equivalent to about 4 liters per 100 kilometers. A word on steering feel. There's no rack and pinion finesse here, yet the direct linkage from steering wheel to fork gives the front end a terrier's eagerness. Urban maneuvers are a breeze. The Solyto dispatches alleys that would embarrass a bicycle. That short wheelbase, just look at it, means potholes announce themselves with vigor, but the whole vehicle is so light that impacts feel more comic than cruel. Shift quality on manual cars mirrors the motorcycle roots. Snick-snick if cables are healthy, vague if they aren't. Later KV-era automatics, dreamed up by Joseph Spelek, made stop-start work genuinely easier. Body styles evolved with customer needs. The stalwart fourgonette Tollet wore full metal sides, a proper panel van for bakers, plumbers, and anyone who liked their cargo dry. The fourgonette Bachet offered a canvas back for taller loads and easy access, a favorite with florists and market traders. And then there was the unicorn, the brake camping, the weekend escape special with 4 glazed rear windows and a roll-back canvas roof. It was the microcamper France deserved, Spartan, sincere, and the sort of clever you only appreciate after a nap beside a river. Now the prices you came for. At the Bruce Weiner Microcar Museum sale, run by R.M. Sotheby's, a 1958 Solyto changed hands for $25,300, while a very seldom seen 1967 Solyto brake camping with 4 rear windows sold at the same venue for $20,700. In 2013, 2 Solytos from the Bruce Weiner Microcar Museum crossed the block. A 1958 Solyto utility sold for $25,300, and a very rare 1967 Solyto brake camping with 4 rear windows brought $20,700, both through the RM Run sale of that collection. Today, driver-grade vans and pickups in France and the United Kingdom typically ask about 5,000 to 10,000 euros, depending on body style and condition. As always, asking is not selling, but that's the lane they cruise in. If you enjoyed this little lion legend, hit subscribe and ring the bell. New videos land faster than Timmy can borrow my tools and forget where he left them. May your roads be smooth, your neighbors less toxic than ours, and your 3 wheels always find 2 friends.